It will be delivered by Mrs. Swati Bhide. Mrs. Swati Bhide is the leader of Asia Pacific Blockchain and Automation Global Innovation Unit at IBM India. She is also the IBM partner leading the blockchain and automation unit across the Asia Pacific market with experience delivering more than 100 blockchain projects. She holds a management degree from IIM Bangalore. She is a banking industry expert with almost 2 decades of consulting experience. So I request her to please come onto the stage and deliver the lecture. Ma'am, please.
After all the multiple questions of blockchain, I thought I'll give you a breath of relief over here. See all the technologies, right? I think just one thing, I know all of you are procurement experts here. One disclaimer, I am not a procurement specialist, so if I do any mistake, please help me around. My real job is basically use any of this to help our customers in any of our industries. However, of course, banking is my core industry. I end up looking more of why did SVB really fail? Where did regulators have an issue? What was the difference between 2008 global crisis versus now with SVB? Does anybody have an answer to that? What was so different, or was there anything different in SVB fallout than what we have today? Do we have an answer? Actually, it was one of the very old schemes. There wasn't anything new that SVB did. From what I'm hearing from most of the places, it's basically the regulator's role that failed, right? The regulator's role in the sense that the regulators or the supervisory bodies today are more focused on process compliance than actually finding on those loopholes. I'll ask an easier question. Why did our Indian IT provider CEO resign? Is that an easier question? No, I don't have an answer to that. I think all of us are struggling with that. Why did he resign? Anyway, so I'll take a pause here. The reason I bring this picture up, and I think one disclaimer again here, this was before ChatGPT was officially launched. Otherwise, you would see all ChatGPT and AI everywhere, right? I think that's the hype we have today. But amongst all the technologies, I know that you heard blockchain and smart contracts so often. But this is the paradigm of all the technologies that exist today. And this is again based on AI. The clusters that you see is trying to tell you what is being talked about more, what is being worked upon more. So you see those different colors and different sizes. More or less before ChatGPT, I would say, quantum computing is still being the number one being talked about. Security in many, many aspects. Blockchain also comes as part of that security. And third is automation. And automation can be in any way. It can be the smart contracts that we talked about. It can be robotics. It can be anything and everything. But automation is absolutely something that we're talking about. Automation also comes because of digital transformation that we are seeing in our own country today. And again, digital transformation is because the self-service is something that we all have learned to do, right? So they're all related in one way or the other. Okay. Just a quick jump, and I think all of you are from different enterprises. I don't need to say this, but from the way that we used to work in 2010, in the silo to today in 2020, a decade later, we have even if I just take a simple example of data and AI, we used to work in different functions, data AI. Now we're talking about data AI across the enterprise. And the third that is going to come and is already there is we are talking about the automation and the DAO that Deepak talked about, right? So it's absolutely automated in most of the ways. I know we have concerns about, what does it leave with us? But it's the same thing. While ChatGPT is so good, you can get all your answers. Of course, our teachers and professors have concerns because the students will write their essays in using ChatGPT, right? And I have a daughter. Obviously, those are the questions that will be there in each of the minds. So good or bad, but this is what is there and is coming. From a supply chain perspective, and this is not far, we're talking about 2030. First of all, we are saying COVID, when it came, we all know the issues of the oxygen cylinders, the hotel beds, the vaccines and all of that. One thing it clearly exposed is the vulnerabilities that exist in our supply chain. That's the most important thing. So it's essential that we connect most of them. If there are things that will not be available, we need to know beforehand. If there are things that cannot be met, we need to know beforehand. So all of these vulnerabilities is going to make sure, for that, we have to know that they have to be connected. That's the most important part. Secondly, cloud adoption. I know there is a lot of discussion about cloud. We also have, from our regulators, many regulations that are coming out of it. But the moment you put it on cloud, it makes life easy. So that's another trend. Data, AI, we spoke about. And sustainable, there's been a lot of. I will skip some of these. But this is just a quick glance from a McKinsey, which says what will be a supply chain leader. And I think a lot of you, from a procurement function to a supply chain function, will be a part of this, right? So what happens? First of all, you concentrate on your customer, not your internal process. Second of all, it has to be data and AI driven. Your supply chain has to be sustainable. And I know I heard a lot of questions on blockchain, and I'm sure you have 10 more questions on other exponential technologies. But a leader will ensure that these technologies are really embedded in your solutions so that you are prepared for the future. A very simple example of what the supply chain collaboration will look like. What's most important is the ease of business. The ease of business with you, the ease of business between the parties at the bottom, right? That's what we are all looking at. How convenient it is, and why do we all love Paytm and UPI and Google Pay? Because the easiest thing to do is that. How much of net banking do we do versus the Google Pay we do today? It's simply because it's ease of business. Reduce the friction. There is, and COVID obviously was a very classic example there. There is multiple frictions that come in a supply chain, and I'm the last person who should be telling that. You know it very, very well. How do I reduce the friction? Now to come to that, why do we need to do all of this also is because we need agility in the system. As you said, that if you had 100 shoes that you had, or 1,000 shoes that you had ordered, which was supposed to be white in nature, and the blue came, 100 of them came blue, what do? So you need to have that flexibility and the agility in the system. The systems of tomorrow, and actually even today, are all going to be multi-layered networks. How well you connect to those multi-layered networks is the crucial point. How much of an advantage that you take with your connectivity is where you succeed, right? And I'll give you a few examples, but that the larger your network and reach is, the the stronger your business and easier in terms of working through it. What do you need to do for both of those? On one side, you have to make your business model flexible enough but strong enough to be able to use all of these different technologies to come together. Smart contracts, we heard a lot about it. How do I use smart contracts to do this? How do I use data to do this? How do I use AI? How do I also use interconnected solutions or IoT for that matter to do it? That's going to be crucial. And then on the operations side, how do I make it more efficient? The reason I bring this, it's a very simple chart. It's not technology-wise, but you have to come to a stage like this for the future virtual economies that will exist. Again, this is the CPO agenda for procurement, the Chief Procurement Officer, for your future. What should you look at? From your disconnected to collaborative, where partners are more like peers. From your tactical to transformative, which is absolutely, technology is part of it. India has been excellent in adopting technology, and we've really leapfrog only and only for that reason. I think it's essential that we do it here as well. From gatekeeper and all of that to self-service, I think we need not talk about self-service. Self-service is something that we've all got used to it now, but it will move in that direction, even in any of the supply chain compartments that we talked about. From transparency, lack of transparency, you have to have transparent. It has to have visibility, auditability. From your spend focus to insightful, and of course from being adaptive and agile. From the workforce, I just get the mix of workforce only because the models are completely changing. How people will interact in the office, from your workforce somewhere remotely, where they'll all be very, very different. So how do you get adjusted to that? Now, this was just a context that I wanted to set, and I will, with all of the discussions that we had, I'm going to skip a few. This is just one example, and this is example, sir, to one of your discussions, and the focus is not really on technology. It doesn't matter whether it's blockchain, it's AI, or whatever that it is. But essential is if you automate the parts that are not crucial for you and keep the strategic ones with you, that is where the impact is. So for example, we for our own, and I'm from IBM, sorry, I'll just repeat that. We actually automated a part of procurement, right? What we automated was the review part of it. Every contract when it comes in, how do you review it? How the hierarchies together, how the different contracts are connected. We just automated that part of it, right? While you've automated that part of it, the rest of the team is actually now able to connect more and get more revenue on the other side for us. Right? So that's how you have to look at it. When you get technology, you're actually bringing technology to let go of the work which are not strategic in nature. That's the most important thing. Now, this is something that I wanted to show was because, we talked about smart contracts a lot, and there was an Australian blockchain company that was trying to create contracts for the build the smart contracts for the legal agreements that we have. So we have, we do a rental agreement, or we do an affidavit, or I do a complex contract which is binded by the law. Their objective was, how do I create that of smart contracts and how do I legalize it? I think creation is much easy, legalizing is much difficult. So they had a combination of a legal entity which was called Herbert Smith Freewills and multiple other parties. They also had a regulatory. Now I should tell you that this didn't fly completely. They did a lot of things, but did not fly because of a lot of limitations Deepak talked about, but most importantly, this was tried like 5 years back, so it was much, much early in the game. But the concept is very strong, you know. What we are talking about is everybody gets the same truth or the single source of truth of that contract. Everybody works with that same contract, right? And you know, one of the examples that we also had was bank guarantees or the lease kind of agreements that you have. It happens, you know, let's say you have a 100-year lease. After the 50th year, something goes wrong. Who remembers? The person, the two entities who did it does not even exist probably. They don't live anymore probably. How do you go back and check that? So in those cases, it's very important that there is some sort of truth that everybody can look at, right? Automation, I don't have to say, but then all of these parties, which is contracting parties, government property, government departments, law firms, all of them coming together, they actually were responsible to get this smart contract up and running. Now this is in your space entirely. I don't think I need to explain this. The essentials is that if I have the suppliers together, if I have the purchase orders that everybody can look at, if I have the goods received at one place with no disputes at some level, and if I have, not the essence, but the contracts itself, the contract agreement between the two parties, and my goods received and the invoices, if I ingest all of them in a place that you can see it, that everybody can have a view to the common thing, it's much easier, right? What can I do? Deepak talked about traceability, visibility, auditability. Of course, all of you are seeing the same thing. While somebody can say, no, I shipped 100 items, but 50 of them went via a different logistic vendor. You can say that, but you can't say that I shipped only 50 and I did not ship another 50, I don't know where it is. Even today, when I'm having a Swiggy a Swiggy app that you go to, you've ordered food, you want to see how quickly it'll come to you. You also want to see where it is at this time. With something like this, when you're used to Swiggy, you also want to do the same for your any kind of purchase. How do you do that? This is the only way to do it, by getting them connected. Again, I'm repeating, the connections does not mean you have to do blockchain and only blockchain. There are many, many technologies to do it, but blockchain is an enabler to be able to get that connected for you. Simple examples which I have not put in here, but let's say you went to Reliance Smart and you bought you bought a box of Kellogg's which was wrong. How do you trace that Kellogg's pack, and how do you make sure that that Kellogg's pack of yours which was bad, there could be another 50 in different Reliance Mart, and can I pull this off? Can I get them out of the shelf? The only way to do it is, if you know where did this Kellogg's, which distributor it came from, where was it sourced from, and I have that traceability, and I say, okay, this distributor, which came from a manufacturer X, this line is bad, and hence remove everything, all the numbers of Kellogg's pack that came, which was associated with this line. That's the easiest way to do it. Otherwise, obviously, it might take like 7 days or weeks for you to be able to do that. I will skip this. But the only thing that I want to say also is that you have your ERP systems. The ERP systems continue to be there. We're not getting rid of the ERP systems. They will still be your system of record. What you're saying is the important data out of there, you're going to put it on the ledger. That ledger will use that data to create smart contracts which will actually create the automation logic for you. Right? The system of record does not go. The system of record exists the way it is. This is just one example, and I'm just putting this across because we worked for one of the large supply chain companies. And from the, this 90 to 60 days that it would have to handle the disputes, I know Deepak mentioned disputes will never go away, but can definitely come from 60 to 90 days. It actually came down to 1 day. You can, from any point of the starting to end, you can actually resolve, close that dispute in 1 day if it has occurred. Of course, will you need human intervention? Yes, absolutely, you might need. And that's essential. We exist for a reason, right? It will be there. Sorry. We talked about sustainability. Now, if you are connected, and only if you are connected, you will be able to figure out all the parameters of that supply chain. Now, do you understand scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 kind of emissions? Does anybody or everybody understand that? Okay. The laptop that sits here, how do you know how much carbon this laptop has actually generated? Not why I'm using it. While I'm using it, it's a different ball game. I'm talking about the manufacturing of this laptop. How much of carbon did it actually generate? What is scope 1? You bought it from what brand is this? Dell shop? You bought it from Dell. That's a distributor. You first find out in that Dell, what is the carbon emission that's happening at that first level? The Dell got it from some manufacturing, so that's scope 1. The Dell got it from a manufacturing unit somewhere. The emissions that are created there is scope 2. And the parts that are there in this Dell computer came from the chip has come from somewhere else, the other parts of the motherboard has come from somewhere else. That is scope 3. The only way you can come to know the emissions on each one of them is that if this chain is connected. And if this chain is connected, you can get the carbon footprint at each one of them. And the carbon footprint has variety of parameters. It's just not about how much electricity I'm using to how much water I'm using. It's 10 other parameters to look at, right? So that's how you figure out how you have come, how sustainable this product is. And from a finance perspective, and I think there are some people from the finance, World Bank and some of them. From that perspective, the big thing is about you should do maximum sustainable financing. For me to be able to do sustainable financing, I need to know how sustainable this company's product is. And that's the only way you can do it. Right? So that's one of the big things in the future that we have to look at. And then, of course, from the manufacturing and then back to the scrap. My Dell laptop, once its lifetime is over, I've given it to scrap. What happens after that? It's my recycling that it goes to. How much of a carbon footprint that recycler does? As far as you are connected, you can get these parameters into it. I will skip this. This only talks about multiple data that needs to come from there. So when we talked about the recycling, I will shift from okay, it could be a plastic bank or it could be an electric bank, whatever, doesn't matter. But basically, once the life is over and you are recycling it, What does it take to recycle it? Right? Once, and this simple example is a plastic bank, because this is the plastic recycle that we're talking about. Every time a collector gets the plastic to you, they are given a token. Again, a token is the form of, one of the forms that Dow talked about, one of the forms that you can give it as in the DeFi concept, but it's a token that you are given, right? This token, this token when I've got as a collector, how do I make an economy of this? I can use this token tomorrow to buy gifts, to do my purchases, to do whatever that I want. Why I'm just bringing this up is the token economy that exists today and that will exist tomorrow. Now, in a simple terms today, if I have some cryptos in my Coinbase, how do I use it at a merchant to be able to redeem it? Can I do it today? No. Are the technologies available to do it today? Yes. MasterCard, Visa, I'm sure sometime our RuPay cards will also do it. I can convert my Coinbase cryptos and get them into a normal, economic, the normal spends that I do. The merchant will still get a fiat currency. But how do you switch between a virtual currency to a fiat currency? How do I make it as seamless as possible? That's very, very crucial, and that will come, is coming. It is no more future. It is no more future. We talked about sports. If I have to use, today, sir, while, we are parents, we tell our kids also to play, go out and play, right? But we know that half the kids today are still playing games on their keyboards. We know it happens. How do I convert those game tokens to something that I would want to do? Something that I can spend somewhere else, right? That's the virtual world and the real world, how seamlessly they can be connected is going to be crucial tomorrow. And this is what the new internet will be. I have the old times of my going to a website, just the information that I can see. It was called as Web 1.0. It was just about seeing information and getting information. Today we are in the world of Web 2.0, which is interactive in nature, which is of course the likes of Instas and Facebooks and LinkedIn's and all of them that we have, which is quite interactive in nature. But your data really sits with those servers. They have the monopoly of it, right? The Web 3 is what Deepak talked about Dow. What the autonomous organizations that will exist. But it's much more than that. The most important thing is, how do you own the data? So data today sits with your Amazon, sits with your Facebook. Shares, of course, there are things in which you can share. But how do I really own my data and share it only with the people that I want? We all know how many messages that comes on our mobile phones that are more spam. At every retail store you go to, they will ask your mobile number. Sir, can we know your mobile number? Really not required. Why do we give our mobile numbers there? But that mobile number is something that is used to send 10 other messages to you, or for that matter, our Gmail IDs. Yeah, your mail IDs. That's how you will have to avoid it tomorrow. How do I ensure my data is private to me? Plus, you think your Google data, Facebook data is not being shared, used, sold. It is being used, it is being sold and shared. How do you ensure that nobody touches your data? Right? There's a concept that Deepak touched upon was self-sovereign identity. That is one of the key things that you need to, which is there on Web 3.0, which will ensure that you own your data. Does any of you have used It is self-sovereign identity that is implied. So, you know, as far as we can embed technology in these areas, that's how your privacy will start beginning to come in. Now, one part is owning the data. Second part is the virtual economy that is coming tomorrow, right? The whole virtual economy that you will see in multiple platforms, and I'm not saying the word metaverse yet, but there will be platforms that will have a complete different set of virtual economy. Now, you know, metaverse is also a misnomer. Please don't associate with the Meta and Facebook, etc. It's also not just blockchain. There is a lot of other parameters to it. It is your, actually two significant parameters. One, it's your experience. So, bad example, but I'll still go ahead and give. You go into a branch. You used to go to your bank branch so often. Now you don't because you have net banking. I want it as simple as possible. Now I say, I want it as simple as possible, but I still want to feel the experience. So can I go to a Meta branch and do it? Today you have a customer care that you are, that you are interacting with. I don't get the feeling of it, right? Can I have a simulated customer care that sits in front of me and is talking to me? So those are those augmented reality, virtual reality concepts that will exist, that already exist. The simple example that I generally give on metaverse and the others is the iPhone that came in 2007. Right? At that time also we had all kinds of technologies. We had operating system, we had mobile phones, the old mobile phones that worked on WAP. We had camera separately, all of that. But iPhone at that point in time was instrumental in getting all of these technologies together. That's exactly what metaverse will do. It'll get all of these technologies that we're talking about together to give you a different experience. So, if we have to survive in this new, it is necessary that we are embracing different concepts of this. Blockchain is one part of it. It is necessary that we start embracing that. It is also necessary that we have a currency that is token-based, which can go and jump seamlessly between virtual and real. One of the reasons also why the rest of the world and India is talking about CBDCs. And, most importantly, we are talking about decentralization, which is the DAO concept also that we talked about. From an infrastructure perspective, the decentralization has a very different concept. But, I won't get on the infra side of how the internet itself will be decentralized. It's a very different concept from a technical concept from infra perspective. So, I just end there. So this is how metaverse will look like tomorrow. All we are doing today is also part of some of these technologies that will exist and will get to you tomorrow. I'll take a pause here. I don't know. I think it was a short session. Any questions?
You talked about metaverse and the gradual shifting of everything that we are doing there. As a supply chain person, I am looking at think whether there is a possibility of having it there. Linking it one of your previous slides wherein you showed that you have all the sub-components of supply chain, purchase order, then shipping and payment and all that. And again, in all of them we look at a screen. So the question is, is there any system wherein the commercial part, commercialization of metaverse has been done, not necessarily in supply chain. Let's say in airport industry, or in sports, or in, let's say, entertainment, anywhere, where metaverse concept has been used to interact with customers.
So, I don't know if you've heard the news. The UAE government has actually created a metaverse for Ministry of Commerce. And they do the legal agreements they believe they will be actually be able to sign out there digitally. If you've been to one of the, I don't remember which forums, but NPCI is actually working on a meta platform for us in India. We have a metaverse platform that is there up there. So, you know, we know how it works for India, right? It'll get you the stack and they leave it to us to innovate. It'll be the same thing. The platform is coming. It'll be on us. How do we innovate and work on it?
So on that platform, you intend to put some of the systems with which Indians interact and in a virtual platform.
Yes. There are different ways of looking at it. And since it's new, you know, neither me or anybody cannot say how it will turn out to be. But the one way to look at it is, if I buy a Nike shoe, will I buy it on the metaverse digital or will I buy it physical? I can still buy a digital. Will procurement help us do that? I don't know. So I can still, that's one way of looking at it. Second way of looking at it is the money that I have in the virtual world, the crypto that I talked about, but crypto is actually a bad example. Even no matter what token, I mean a utility token or a game token or a token that I've got by, let's say you gave me some tokens when I've just done this event. Can I use this token to buy a Nike shoe, which gets embedded into your procurement chain? You have to be able to accept this token for me. You know, so the world is going to go in that direction. We just need to find ways in being able to adapt to that and have a technology up to date to be able to help us in that future. I think the lady wanted. Yeah.
Hi, ma'am. I'm Anushri from Metaverse Blockchain Solutions. And this is about, you spoke about a lot of emerging technologies, and I believe in order to surface up these technologies, there has to be research, development, and adoption. I would want to know from the blockchain perspective, where are we in this space, in this ecosystem? Secondly, what are the risks of implementation of smart contracts from the perspective of market risks, compliances, and sanctions? Are they open to businesses? And thirdly, since you're from the financial market, I've consulted a lot of banks across the globe. It's very monopolistic. We believe in the banks, we trust them, and we don't know about blockchain. It's still under discovery. It's trustless, as you said. How do you feel that we will like to transact, forget crypto, forget wallets, decentralized finance? We want to have an entity which is equivalent to that of a bank, and we want to have transaction on it. Which blockchains we would want to operate upon? So these are the primary three questions which are occurring in my mind.
These are all three related to blockchain, if I understand.
Yeah, we could speak only on blockchain.
Okay. So number one is what types of blockchain, right? And I won't give yes or no kind of an answer, but I'll tell you what is happening more often. More often in the banking side of it, you know, since I'm on the banking side, I have seen that private blockchains are more often used, not the public blockchains. The example, one of the examples that I can give you is in Australia, we have 5 big banks that have come together to ease your bank guarantee process. That's a private blockchain. Similarly, across the world that I'm seeing, these are private blockchains. Now that private blockchains, what blockchain beneath it, whether it's going to be Hyperledger Fabric, whether it's going to be Ethereum, whether it's going to be something else, is left to the organization that is deciding it. Was your question between private, public, or it had a different angle to it? What type of blockchains? Is that what you said?
Maybe, and what kind of research projects, since you are from a company called IBM, have you done any such research projects, be it for government, banks, financial technology firms?
There are lots of research. You mean research projects in the banking sector?
Yes.
Yeah, so they're not just research. Actually, there are live projects. There are many, many live projects in production that are already there. My view, a lot of research is done. Research projects are more on the financial market side. So if I want to make my treasury and securities on blockchain, those are some research papers that I can share with you. Is that what you were looking for?
Surely, I look forward. And when you spoke about risk, I mean, is there any risk of implementation of smart contracts, be it supply chain or different industries, or for government?
Many risk. Yes,
Can you name a few
absolutely.
and we need to be cautioned about it.
Yeah, so one risk that I would look at is the volatility risk itself. So, you know, if you are using crypto, then you will have the volatility risk for sure. We're also talking about credit risk here, because in the credit risk in the financial market, I would not while I would know at a point in time, I'm just trying to get back to your question. So, for example, your Nirav Modi case, for example, right? So the Nirav Modi case was because you were having a rolling credit from one bank to the other. The problem that it might solve, if you have a view to all the bank guarantees that were across, is that you would know that there was a rolling credit that kept moving around in each one of them. That problem would have solved. But what would you not know, however, is that how many such are happening in US or for that matter in any other country. So that's the credit risk still exists. Or I'm talking nonsense.
No, I understand that. In fact, I'll give you another use case I've been researching upon. We are all addicted to this Zomato, right? And there are a lot of merchants listed there. There is a payment cycle which the merchant is dependent on Zomato. Though the product and the service, everything is delivered by the merchant. But Zomato has its own settlement cycle, right? And the merchant is dependent on that settlement cycle to clear the funds, right? What if there could be a blockchain-based platform where the ledger is mutually shared, the transactions are mutually shared, and the remittance happens instantly? Why a merchant has to wait T plus 30 days for his own money, for the service which is already been consumed by the customer, and he's delivered to the mark?
Yeah, so that's a very classic example and a valid example for what you mentioned.
Same occurs for Ola and Uber. The drivers have to wait for the credit through their wallet. Now, Ola has actually stopped consumers from paying directly to a customer. They either pay digitally or through the wallet only to the Ola as an organization, which I feel is very monopolistic.
Yeah.
Amazon, I booked a phone the last month, wholly, and I paid 15,000. I did not use the phone. I did a return order. The refund came to me T plus 7 days. Why is it so? Because they're Amazon.
Yeah, yeah. That's correct.
Why are you not, as an organization, delving into these kind of organizations where you are big, you are a big brand? Why don't you approach these kind of use cases and build in blockchain as a solution?
Actually, there are. The ones that you talked about, there are.
These are cases which are still prevalent. I'm a live user.
Yeah.
Consuming all of this.
So there are, what you just talked about. So for example, we have all the big retail brands, for example, together on a blockchain network today, which is called as a food trust, right? We have them on the network. Of course, this is very US based. It's not in India that we've done it. That exists. The second example from a financial market side, if you look at it, the whole clearing and settlement of CLS, the CLS net for the FX is on blockchain. The DTCC, the Data Trust Clearing Corporation that we're talking about, that trade warehouse is on blockchain, so that at any point in time, anybody can see where the trade exists. So there are many, many examples. I think, sorry, what's your name?
Them to me, yeah.
Yeah, what's your name, sorry?
My name is Anushri. I'm from Metaverse Blockchain. We're a New York-based firm. Yeah.
Okay, so Anushri, I will have a separate conversation
Sure,
with you, I think, outside. And I don't know if you were there yesterday or in the Deepak's session. There are some of these things that are covered. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
From a non-banking finance company. I just want you to delve a little more. You mentioned of an Australian example where they tried to create smart contracts from normal legal agreements. And you said they were 5 years too early. What has changed now and how has it become better to implement that?
Yeah, first of all, the technology itself has changed. You know, the talks about privacy that we talked about, like ZKP and others, didn't exist 5 years earlier, right? So a large part of that technology evolution has happened, number one. The second is the regulations. The big reason in these cases are the regulations of the country that is different. So 5 years back then, they could not get to fly it and, you know, it just died its own death. But that Australian example that I'm giving you, they actually made those bank guarantees, which are smart contract based, legal. So they worked with the legal entities and the governments to ensure that they actually get legal. So a big part of all of this is, especially from a legal perspective, if you're doing it, the country's regulation, the country's acceptance plus understanding of that technology and the impacts of it is very, very crucial. I think that's a big piece that has changed. You know, it was an amazing concept. I know the lady that I was working, her name was Natasha Bleicher, very smart lady, but she was 5 years ahead of what she was trying to do.
I would love to speak with you offline.
So, thank you. Thank you, and thank you for hearing me out. If I made a mistake, please bear with me, we can talk separately.
Thank you, ma'am. Requesting Dr.